Association, which is the coordinator of this project. I'd start with sharing my screen. Okay. Okay, I think you. Okay, just a quick introduction on who we are with Lombardy Green Chemistry Association. It is a regional cluster in Lombardy about green chemistry, bioeconomy, and circular economy. The cluster was founded in 2013 by Biotech, which is the Italian leading nonprofit organization on the biotechnology sector, together with other public and private research and development institutions. We were recognized in 2015 by the Lombardy region as the regional cluster of bioeconomy and green chemistry. And since 2016, we are the technical coordinator of the bioeconomy pilot of the Vanguard initiatives. We have 50 members, of which about 50% are small and medium enterprises, and we work on 4 value chains, mainly agri-food, green chemistry, food and pharma, and wood. After this brief introduction on who we are, we would like to start by presenting our project, the hemp project, which brings together 7 clusters and associations operating in the bioeconomy, advanced manufacturing, and hemp production sector, with the aim of creating interconnected and interregional supply chains between operators in primary production, agri-food processing, and green chemistry. The hemp projects strengthen industrial symbiosis and sustainable and renewable business model with a focus on the hemp sector. In fact, we have 5 main objectives in our project, which are improving the management skills of cluster managers, strengthen cluster excellence capacity by improving the portfolio of business support services, facilitate B2B and C2C collaborative activities, enhance collaboration and networking activities between European organizations, and promote internalization, technology, and knowledge transfer. Why we have chosen hemp? We have chosen hemp because it is a sustainable and marginal crop with positive impact on our environment. Hemp can improve air quality by absorbing carbon dioxide, and it has a suppressive action on wheat growth. Furthermore, hemp has anti-erosion and reclamation properties, and it can drain substances and heavy metal from the soil. With hemp, our mission is thus to encourage interregional investment based on the smart specialization strategy, contribute to the achievement of Green Deal and sustainable development goals, while supporting urban-rural symbiosis and environmental protection. Also, we are supporting the cluster exchange schemes implementation in order to enhance the industrial potential of hemp through the creation of new cross-sector value chains. Finally, our project mission is to enhance European cooperation networks in agriculture, advanced manufacturing, and bioeconomy fields. We are 7 clusters from 5 different European countries. We, as the Lombardy Green Chemistry Association, are the coordinator of this project, and together with the Canapa and the Italian Circular Bioeconomy Cluster, we are from Italy. Then we have a cluster from Czech Republic, another one from Austria, and a Romanian and a Portuguese clusters. As I was telling you before, one of our main activities and our main mission is to implement the cluster exchange, a new pilot scheme that supports short-term exchanges with the aim of better connecting Europe's industrial ecosystem. We aim during our project to reach 80 short-term exchanges involving small and medium enterprises, case support organization, training providers, public authorities, big companies, but also cluster and association, which are involved or interested in the hemp sector. What we provide are on-the-job training, sharing of information and experience between visiting and host organization, enhance market access and identification of potential partners for new cluster organization, and supporting the networking between clusters and their members. The majority of exchanges implemented under the MCLAB project will have a duration of 5 working days, with a distance between the two involved organizations of more than 200 kilometers. A lump sum will be provided to all the visitors to support accommodation and living costs during the exchange. The first exchange that we want to organized in the context of our project is a 5 days exchange organized in the context of the Canapa Forum Conference 2022. The exchange is organized by FederCanapa, and it will about policy and innovation of industrial hemp and therapeutic hemp. At the end of our webinar, we will present in detail these opportunities for all the industry and clusters. Now, this is the agenda of today. We will, after my introduction on our project, we will provide some tips and tricks for a successful proposal with Serena Borgna, the head of institutional activities department at APRE. Then we will have some success stories in the industrial hemp sector, and after that I will present these networking opportunities within the MCLAB project, and in particular the exchange organized during the Canapa Forum. At the end, we will have 10 minutes Q&A session, so please use the chat for all your questions. Now, I leave the floor to Serena for the first part of our webinar. Serena, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Sara, and thank you everyone for participating in this event. Just a few minutes that I will try to share my screen and my presentation. Maybe now I can. If I find my presentation, I tried a few minutes ago and everything worked well, but now I cannot find it. So just a second, please. I'm sorry. Oh.
I have the backup copy if you need it.
Yes, but I changed something this morning, but here is it. Okay, so I hope you can see it in the presentation mode. Okay, good. So good morning again. I'm Serena Borgna, working in APRE, the Italian Agency for the Promotion of European Research, and I'm responsible for the competence team in Cluster 6 of Horizon Europe. My presentation of today is about the Circular Bio-Based Europe Joint Undertaking Program that has been launched with the new work program last May, so just 1 month ago. And the deadline for the first calls will be next 22 of September. It is the first experience of the CBE work program in Horizon Europe. So there will be some differences compared with the BBI-JU in the past in Horizon 2020. And I would like to try to give you more details as possible in these 30 minutes. I would like to start from Horizon Europe because, as you know, Circular Bio-Based Europe is part of the Horizon Europe program that is the most important research and innovation program in Europe that will last till 2027, with more than 95 billion euro of funding for Europe, for a research and innovation community in Europe and abroad. As you know, the Horizon Europe structure is based in 3 main pillars. What is funded under the bioeconomy, bio-based sector is mainly present in Cluster 6, that it's called food, bioeconomy, natural resources, agriculture and environment. Under the pillar 2 and the Cluster 6, we can find different programs and initiatives that have some links with the bio-based sector. So when we are looking for opportunities on this sector, we should have a look not only to the Circular Bio-Based Europe institutionalized partnership, but also on what is it published in the Cluster 6, mainly in the destination Circular Bioeconomy. Then also in the mission, where we can find some interesting initiatives that are linked with the bio-based sector, like in soil, mission, and also in the European Innovation Technology in the kick about food. So it's very important to understand the complexity that it's under Horizon Europe, just to better understand where the circular bio-based Europe is included, and also to try to find also other opportunities in other programs and initiatives that are funded by the European Commission. So the overview of the initiative under the sector is quite complex. That's why I would like to show you this slide, just to give you more details about other opportunities. In particular, regarding the cluster 6 and the specific destination circular economy and bioeconomy sector, what I can say you is that the next work program 2023-2024 will be published by the end of this year. In this moment, the different topics, and we will have the new version by December, if everything is okay, with the first deadline in the spring of next year. In the past work program 2021-2022, we already see different opportunities on circular economy and bioeconomy sector in this destination that are in synergies on what is funded in the circular bio-based Europe. Of course, the circular bio-based Europe is more dedicated to the private sector, is more focused on industry, but in any case, some topics could be also of interest, also in the cluster 6 of Horizon Europe. If we are looking for the budget for cluster 6, that it's about 9 billion euro for the next 7 years, we can also see that the cluster 6 included also 1 billion euro for the circular bio-based Europe. That's why there is this strong link between the initiative and the topics and the calls under cluster 6 and the institutionalized partnership circular bio-based Europe. Now let's go to analyze better this joint undertaking, this new joint undertaking, circular bio-based Europe. The slides that I'm going to present are taken by the Info Day that has been done the 7th of June, so last month, about the CBE-JU, the joint undertaking. So I'm going to show you some very fast update about the achievement of the previous bio-based industry, where the different projects that Sarah presented before have been funded, and also some objective about the new circular bio-based Europe joint undertaking, the topics of the next work program, and some tips and tricks. You will see that I have a lot of slides, it's more than 80. I'm not going to detail all the slides, but it could be interesting materials for further analysis from your side. Let's start from the reason of a partnership. As you know, the institutionalized partnership are very important initiative funded under Horizon Europe. Around 20% of the budget of Horizon Europe is dedicated to this kind of initiative, where the European Commission is going to have an agreement with the private sector and the private association. In this case, the Bio-Based Industry Consortium, that is composed by large companies, SMEs, university, technology platform, association, regional cluster, like the cluster that hosts us today, public institution and research organization. It's very important, this link between a European Commission and private and public sector, in order to fix the most important priority in research and innovation for the next years. About the circular bio-based Europe joint undertaking, the idea is to dedicate about 2 billion of funding to this private public initiative. 1 billion euro coming from the budget of the cluster 6, another billion euro coming from the investment of the private consortium of the joint undertaking. The CBE has been established at the end of the last year, starting their activities. And of course, the most important activities has been the publication of the SRIA, so the Strategic Research and Innovation Agenda, and the work program for the funding opportunities of 2022. Just to give you a brief overview about the past. In the past 7 years, the CBE-JU, so the sister of this one, the old sister that has been funded in Horizon 2020, funded more than 140 projects with more than 1,000 beneficiaries and more than 800 billion funding, involving around 40 countries in Europe and abroad. As you can see in the right side of the slide, we can see that the participation of the organization and the percentage of this participation is quite different compared with the Horizon Framework Program funded in the societal challenge, societal challenges in Horizon 2020, and also in the cluster in Horizon Europe. Because the majority of the participants are private companies. So the 65% of the organization funded in this initiative came from the private sector, with also a good participation of university and research center. But in any case, it's the participation of the public sector. It's has less emphasis compared with the private companies. But it's very important to underline that in this kind of initiative, it's very strong, the cooperation between industry and academia in the finalization of the different project and proposal. Here is the project portfolio coming from CBE-JU in the last 7 years. You can see a different project for each year of the work program in the different kind of feedstock that are part of the previous CBE-JU structure. So you can have an idea about the different project with the differences between the funding schemes, so more close to the research or more close to the market with the flagship and the demonstrator site. And also some CSA, so some action that are more cross-cutting, less dedicated to research and innovation. Here you can see also the performance of the reaching the key performance indicator of the CBE-JU. So here you can see the result coming from the CBE project in the past 7 years. In the document about the monitoring and evaluation on the CBE, we can see a positive view about the performance of the different CBE projects compared with the key performance indicator that the JNU indicated at the beginning of the initiative. Here you can see the different flagship biorefinery and demonstration plant that has been funding in the past 7 years, just to have a look about the distribution of this very important investment around Europe. And here you can see some data about the 13 flagship project funded that have mobilized more than 2,050 million of grant coming from the European Commission and more than 1 billion euro of private investment. That is very important for the leverage effect that is a part of the idea of the institutionalized partnership at European level. Here you can see some projects. I don't know if some of them will be also invited in the next session, but just to give you an idea about the 13 flagship projects. Just to be fast on this part, you can see in this list the more interesting achievement of the CBE-JU that should be also maintained in the Circular Bio-Based Europe joint undertaking in Horizon Europe. It's very interesting to underline the structuring effect and the mobilizing effect of the CBE-JU. So the value chain driven cooperation across sector, that it's very important to create competitiveness and innovation inside the BBI sectors, and also demobilizing effect. That means innovation-driven funding, also given by key stakeholders and private companies into the different project funding. Another very important element to underline is the high participation of SMEs that has a key role in the different projects. The CBE-JU and also the other institutionalized partnership in Horizon 2020 have a very positive effect in the participation of SMEs. But in this case, it's very important because compared with the societal challenge number 2 in Horizon 2020, we can see that the CBE-JU funded more SMEs with a clear role in the project and not only with a cosmetic role as in the past. Another interesting thing is the 30% of funding that is going to university and research organization. As I said you before, it is very different on the other Horizon 2020 societal challenges. So there is a strong role of private companies, more big, large companies than SMEs in the BBI than in other program of Horizon 2020. But what the Circular Bio-Based Europe joint undertaking would like to reach in Horizon Europe is to create more improvements in the risk investment, so try to improve the access to the private capital and also to avoid any gaps in demo and flagship. Another important thing is also to try to cover some areas that are not covered enough in the previous program, like the farmers' participation that should be integrated in the value chain. So this is an aspect that we should consider also in the next proposal, the full feedstock potential and the geographical coverage. The geographical coverage has been a weakness in the past, so it's something where the new proposal in the CBA should dedicate more attention. Then I would like to underline another two things. The first one, it's towards the policymaker. So it's important that the new project will be more coherent, supportive, and should be more strong in creating a stable regulatory framework with the policymaker. And from the other side, there is another important thing that it's about consumer awareness and education that are becoming very important, not only in the coordination and support action, but also as a cross-cutting element in a research and innovation and in the demo and flagship proposal. Let's start with the Circular Bio-Based Europe about what is now. So here you can see the key role of the Circular Bio-Based Europe in contribution, in its contribution to target the EU climate needs of the European Union. I would like to remind you that the CBA, it's a strong part, that the Circular Bio-Based could contribute very much to the Green Deal policy priority of the European Union. So it will contribute to target the 2030 climate targets, and it should increase the sustainability and the circularity of production and consumption system. And also it is very important to develop and expand the sustainable sourcing and conversion of biomass into bio-based products. At the end, the CBA is very important in supporting the deployment of bio-based innovation at the regional level. This is another very important element of the CBE-JU that is not only an initiative very important at European level, but it should have a sort of cascading towards national, regional, and local level. That is another very important element that we can find also in the objective of the flagship. The objectives of the CBE-JU are based in three main areas. The innovation, so accelerate the innovation process and the development of bio-based innovative solutions. Another area is about market deployment. So accelerate the market deployment of the existing mature bio-based innovative solution. In the end, there is the environmental performance. So ensuring a high level of environmental performance of bio-based industrial system. What I see now is something that we can find also in the template of the proposal. So this objective should be also maintained, and we will see the importance of this objective also in the template of the proposal that have some difference in Horizon Europe cluster 6 template. So the CBE-JU proposal should have more attention in some element that are also coming from these general objectives. Here you can see the specific objective compared with innovation, the deployment, and environmental performance. So here you can see a clusterization of these different objectives in the 3 main general objectives of the CBE. How the general undertaking works. The first document that has been published and that is very important for the establishment of the JNU is the Strategic Research and Innovation Agenda, where we can find the main priorities and the line of research and innovation in the next year. This document is very important because it's based on the agreement between the European Commission and the big consortium. The second level, it's the annual work plan. So the annual work plan 2022 that has been published a few weeks ago, it's a sort of derivation of the priority that has been set in the strategic research and innovation agenda. In the annual work plan, we will find the call for proposal. So we will find the opportunities for funding offered by the JNU. Industrial sector are very keen, as I said also before, in this initiative, and the industry that use biological resources and processes to produce food, feed, bio-based product, energy, and services are at the center of this initiative. Another very important aspect are the bio-based products, not only food and feed, but also coming from pharmaceutical, medical devices, biofuel, bioenergy, textile, furniture, construction, automotive. So when you see inside the text of the research priority, you will find a very long list of potential sector where the bio-based products can be focused. Other scope of the CBE are about the cascading use of biomasses. There is some important constraint about the biomass sourcing that should coming from EU, EFTA, and AC countries, with very specific constraints that are reported in their rules and in our annual work plan. Then there is another important element that should consider in the proposal with specific criteria in the evaluation process that are about the climate and environmental performance. Then there are some strong attention to activities that enable the conversion of waste, residues, and side stream. And then another element that I also mentioned before is about the contribution to local and regional economies. That it's very important for reducing the dependency of Europe in importing natural resources. In this slide, that I don't want to go more in details, you can see the strategic objective linked with the strategic priorities set in the strategic research and innovation agenda. So in the blue, you can see the priorities linked to the innovation objectives. In yellow, the priorities linked to the deployment, and in green, the priorities dedicated to the environmental. So it's very important to keep in mind the strategic priorities like the strategic objective, because in the proposal you have to clearly link your proposal, in how your proposal is going to reach and in going to contribute to reaching these priorities and these objectives. In particular, the strategic priorities of the Circular Bio-Based Europe are positioned in this value chain that start from feedstock, pass through the processing. This value chain of the strategic priority is also enriched by some cross-cutting priorities like communication, finance, and environmental sustainability framework. You should take also this cross-cutting priority in strong consideration when you are going to define the idea of the proposal in your initiative, in your project. Now let's go to have a look about the opportunities that are now open and that will be that are going to close in September next year. First of all, I would like to show you the structure of the topic. In each topic, you will find this table where the Commission is going to give you, the JNU is going to give you details about type of action, indicative budget, expected EU contribution for project. Indicative budget is the total amount of budget dedicated to that topic. The expected contribution is the budget that the Commission is going to expect from your action. If the indicative budget and the expected EU contribution is the same, it means that the Commission is going to fund just one project. Otherwise, it will be the double or triple, and it will show you that the Commission is going to fund more than one project. TRL means the technology readiness level. Means the technology readiness level. So it's the level of maturity of the technology. And so the JNU already give you some indication about the result that she would like to obtain from your proposal. So if the technology should be validated in at laboratory level, like in a research and innovation action, or if it should be validated in the industry environment. So if the TRL is higher, so it should be around 7 or 8. These information are reported in the table, in the text of the topic. Another 3 important elements that are reported in this table that are very useful for you as proposer are the link to the CBE-specific objective that I remind you are based on innovation, deployment, and environment. The link to the CBE SRIA, that means the strategic priorities that I showed you before, and then the link to the key performance indicator. So which performance indicator your proposal should indicate in the text of the project. After this table, you will find the expected outcome that the Commission is expecting from your proposal and the scope, so the scientific and technological objective. As I said you before, the technology readiness level, it's the scale that starts from 1 to 9. Usually in a CBA, we are moving between 3 and 8, and with the research and innovation action that are usually between 3 and 5. So the development and validation of technologies and the innovation action, including demo and flagship, are between level 6 and 8. So the demo are going to fix the activities around the scaling up and the demonstration of technology, while the flagship are going to create large-scale, first of its kind product facilities in Europe. The coordination and support action are not interested by the TRL because are not research and innovation action. Usually the coordination and support action are very important in fixing best practice, networking, in create exchange between different projects, but they are not going to dedicate the activities to research and innovation. Let's have a look about the different topics that we will find in this annual work plan. We will find 12 topics for the total amount of budget dedicated around 120 million euro. And the deadline, as I said before, it's the 22nd of September. And there is no competition between topics. So each topic has their own budget dedicated. This is something that is different compared with the previous year. Here you can see that the flagship, there is not the indicative budget, but it's 14 million and will be funded just one project, one flagship in this initiative in the row number 5 of this table. Just to give you some support in identify the topics and the link with the specific objective, the specific priorities and the key performance indicator. In these slides, you will find some table, some matrix that can help you. In particular, the table that will follow that show you the different priority of the CBE, the link for the different CBE-JU topic, fixing better the idea link with the priorities and the key performance indicator, the objective and the units of measure in this work plan. I don't want to go now in about the 12
Hello, Serena. I think we have lost you for the connection. I don't think she can hear us. Serena, can you hear us?
Yes, now I can hear you. Sorry, maybe I have some problem with my connection.
Yeah, I think
and it's also very hot in my house in this moment. Okay,
yeah, no. Maybe you can switch off your camera.
I remove my video.
Yeah, perfect.
Yes, good. So can you see again my presentation?
No, you have to recreate the screen.
Few seconds, I'm sorry for that.
Oh, no problem. Okay, we can see the screen.
Yes. So in this slide, I have 12 slides about each topic. You will see the kind of the type of action, the TRL, the EU contribution. So you will have some details about each of the topics that are available in this annual work plan. In the first part, in this first slide, you will find the innovation action demo. So they are usually around TRL 6-7. In this initiative, it's very important, and I repeat again, the role of the industry sector. In the slide, you will find a couple of rows about the scope and the expected outcome, and when important, some other elements, like in this case, the multi-actor approach that should be maintained and keep relevant in the proposal. Here is another innovation action. It's about a cooperative business model for sustainable mobilization and valorization of agricultural residues, byproducts, and waste in rural areas. Also in this case, we have an innovation action with a TRL higher than the previous one, that is 7, and the budget for each project is around 5 million euro. Also in this case, the multi-actor approach is a relevant element. Another topic, it's about bio-based alternatives to fossil-based chemical building blocks. In this case, the budget for each project is around 6 million euro. Also in this case, multi-actor approach, it's very important. Here you can find in italic some interesting aspects that should be considered when you are going to fix the scientific and technology objective of your proposal. Another important things is in these other topics, it's about the co-processing of mixed bio-based waste stream. Here you can find some details about the idea that side stream from primary production, mixed municipality solid waste, and conversion of contaminated biomasses are excluded. So it's very important to fix this in your mind, just to avoid any loss of time in developing the scope of your proposal. Also in this case, it's very important the multi-actor approach, so the involvement of the different actors that are in the value chain. Then we are moving now to the flagship. The flagship projects are bigger than the demo. Also the budget dedicated is very important. We are around 14 million euro. And the important focus of the flagship you can see also from the title. So maximum valorization of sustainably sourced bio-based feedstock in multi-products, zero waste, zero pollution, biorefinery. In the text of the topic that you will find in the main document, there will be more details about what should be taken into consideration in the flagship. The other flagship, that is the second and last of this work plan, it's about alternative sources of high added value food and or feed ingredients. In this case also there is a big contribution coming from the GENIU, around 14 million euro, with the TRL very high. We are around 8, so we are almost in the first market replication. Then we have now several research and innovation topics that are more close to research activities, and usually the TRL and F5. The budget dedicated to the research and innovation action is quite smaller than in the innovation action. Here you can find the different topic. The first one is about high-performance bio-based polymers for market application with stringent requirements. Another one is about bio-based coating, barriers, binders, and adhesives. And when you see the text of the topic, you will see also the sector for application of this technology. So it's very important to read very carefully the text of the topic because it is going to give you more details about what the GENIU is looking for and which is the main problem where you should find a solution. This is the third topic, third research and innovation action is about circular by design, bio-based materials to improve the circularity of complex structure. That there is another one about proteins for alternative and unconventional sources. And the last one is about sustainable vibes, biorefinery feeds. It's very important in this topic that not only the multi-actor approach is a side element, but also that the international cooperation is encouraged. Here is the first and only one, coordination and support action. So it's something that is not going to fund the research and innovation program, are more activities for coordinate and support the different actors in the bio-based sector. And it is about developing and validating monitoring systems of environmental sustainability and circularity, collecting the best practices and the benchmark. So different actors are encouraged to participate in this initiative. So I'm close this part of the presentation. Now, just few words I will leave this presentation because my time is finished, but I would like just to give you some indication about how to write a good proposal in the circular bio-based industry. In particular, because there are some specific requirements in circular bio-based Europe that are project in Horizon Europe and also compared with the previous CBE-JU. So we should understand very well the different evaluation criteria, including the novelties that are coming from the new structure of Horizon Europe. Here you can see some additional requirements about CBE-JU. So I started on sustainability, environmental protection, economic feasibility, participation of all the relevant action, synergies with other projects. All these three elements, we will see that are also reported in the template of the proposal. So it's very important to keep in mind that these elements are not something that we should consider if we want, but we have to consider these elements in our project. And they are also specified in the annual work plan. Here you can see additional requirements that should be included, compared, as I said you before, with Horizon Europe and with the CBE-JU in Horizon 2020. So, first of all, the complementarity and synergy with other projects, the eligibility of feedstock sourcing that should coming by European Union, EFTA, and associated countries, some environmental required about the feedstock that are very that are strongly specified in the descriptive part of the proposal. Then that are some ex-ante assessment that should be made and that should be keep clearly in the section 1 and section 2 of the proposal, of the excellence part of the proposal, so in the objective and ambition and in the methodology. And that's also an additional requirements about ex-post assessment of environmental sustainability and circularity with dedicated task and or work package. And so it will be included in the part number 3 of the proposal in the implementation chapter. Then other additional requirements are about the economical viability with business case and business plan that should be included in the chapter number 2 about the impact of the proposal and also the multi-actor approach. In the following slide that I have no time to describe, you will find for each of these elements a description. So it's very useful to going into in details when you are going to apply, just to understand better how this element should be included in your proposal. I'm going now to the end about just the evaluation criteria, because in the circular bio-based Europe, we have the same criteria of Horizon Europe, like excellence, impact, and implementation, but there are an additional specific sub-criteria for the innovation action, including the flagship in the circular bio-based Europe. It means that the partner of this initiative should be able to ensure an in-kind contribution to the operational activities of the goal of the topic with a peculiar percentage that should dedicate to these activities. So that should be the 15% in the innovation action and 20% in the innovation flagship. It means that the partner should dedicate its own budget in this in-kind contribution that are not included in the contribution coming from the JNU. In this slide, you will see the most relevant criteria, sub-criteria for research and innovation action in excellence chapter, and for the CSA, also for the excellence chapter. Some important questions for the evaluation that should be very important. And in red, you will find some specific objectives that are only typical of the CBE-JU compared with Horizon Europe. So, for example, the multi-actor approach, the synergies with a relevant project, the do not disclosure are principle with the environmental taxonomy, that it's another important element of the circular bio-based joint undertaking. And then some specific criteria for the impact. Also in this case, some specific question only for the circular bio-based Europe, like the economic viability and the ECOP, so the in-kind own contribution of the partnership. Then for the implementation, some important point is about the ex post assessment of environmental sustainability and circularity, especially for the area and in innovation action. That is something that is different from the other project. So yeah, you can find other interesting inputs and suggestions coming from the CBE-JU that you can read, that in case we can also have a bilateral talk about this element if you need more details from my side. So I'm sorry because I take more time than foreseen, and I'm going to close my presentation. Sorry again for the not stable connection, but I hope that you follow my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Serena. Thank you very much. Maybe I see two questions very related to what you just presented, so maybe we can answer now. The first one is, what is the co-financing rate for the BBI projects?
Yes. So we have the 100% for the research and innovation action for each kind of actors, each kind of type of organization. And we will have the 70% of funding for private sector in the innovation action. So the contribution is the same of Horizon Europe. The difference is in contribution is that in the innovation action, the partner of the action should demonstrate the in-kind contribution, so the ECOP contribution to the initiative. So additional investment that the partner should put into the activities.
Thank you, Serena. The last question. One of the main issues of the operators in our sector, the hemp sector, is the funding of processing lines, particularly for the fiber and sheaves processing. Would you see any possibility there within the CBE-JU program?
Yes, I don't know, Sarah, if you can hear me, but
yeah,
I don't know if
I can't hear you anymore.
If you can hear me, but as we made before, can you hear me now?
Yeah, now yes.
Sarah, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I think that this question is be made before my presentation of the different topics. So you can see also by my presentation that there could be at least one interesting topics on that. So of course, this is the right place where I find this kind of opportunities.
Thank you. I see that there are other questions on the chat, but we will try to answer step by step or live or in the chat. So let's just check the chat. Now we can start with the second part of this webinar, where we present the success stories on hemp project. And first, we would like to present the GRACE project. Here we have the Professor Stefano Maducci from the Università Cattolica del Sacro Cuore, and he will present the GRACE project. So the floor is yours.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. I hope you can hear me.
Yeah, perfectly.
Okay, so I share the screen. Just tell me if it works.
Yeah, it's working perfectly.
Okay, perfect. So I prepared a presentation in which I have something more than the GRACE project. So I call it GRACE, another EC project on hemp, and I will make a fast, let's say, a faster view over the project on hemp in which I took part in the years. Actually, my research career has been quite a lot on hemp, and in fact, I prepared a small personal bio regarding my experience on hemp research, which is strongly intertwined with European projects, starting from my PhD, which I did at the University of Bologna, in the frame of one of the first, I think, project on hemp. It was the fourth framework, and it was a very general project in which hemp was seen as a multi-purpose crop. So it was both for the seeds, for the fiber, but mainly, let's say, on fiber and trying to find uses for both for the long fiber and also for the sheaves. After this first project, the two consortia which were participating in this hemp project formed other two projects. One was Harmonia, and the other was HempSys. HempSys was not financed immediately, but was financed a couple of years later, as you see. And Harmonia was more focused on breeding, and in particular on the development of a particular type of hemp varieties that were yellow. And this is because one of the main issues linked to the use of hemp as a fiber crop for the production of high quality fiber, especially for a textile destination, was the retting in the field. And this was seen as a view. As an alternative, instead in HempSys, we focused on the development of a processing system which reversed what is done traditionally. So usually hemp is was retted in water, and then decorticated and scratched to obtain the long fiber. In this sense, in this project, we pursued the idea of reversing these two steps. So do first the scratching and then do the degamming, biodegamming, or the retting on the fiber. And these to render this important step, which was the retting on the field, less prone, let's say, to the environmental conditions and to the difficulties, for example, to do this in areas like Italy, for example, where when is the right moment for field retting, there is not enough humidity, and these might not be performed suitably. So in this first project, I just have just a few considerations about HempSys, because I was project manager in this project, and it was quite Italian-centered in a certain way. Of course, it was a European project with different partners, but the idea, it was really to re-establish the tradition of hemp textiles in Italy. And some interesting outcome from this project were the fact that hemp fiber, after all, for textile destination was quite expensive. So it was important to create high added value products out of it, so something linked to the fashion, and something also which should be supported by a strong marketing strategy, which should, and that's interesting because we did a marketing study within this project, should not be too much focused on the positive or allegedly positive aspects of hemp as a crop, but actually disconnect a little bit from the vision that it was generally, let's say, in the public on hemp as this eclectic or powerful crop, but actually as a noble crop from the past with some positive values. And that's why, for example, a company that was involved in the project created this logo, blue hemp, blue as exactly the noble tradition, and it was still written in green because it's also a sustainable crop. Some other aspects that were, let's say, taken from this project is the fact that key issues were the mechanization of the wool production chain, both of the harvest, but also of fiber extraction, considering that there were some issues in the sense that the idea on which this project was based was to do scatching on machines which are typically used for flax, but flax is much shorter. So, or you keep the plant short, or you split in two parts, for which, of course, there were no machines available for that. And then another point was to create new varieties, because actually the hemp varieties are really old, or were old at that point. So there was the need to create new, improved varieties with different and more positive characteristics, not just on the fiber, but also as for other characteristics. Then I coordinated the multi-hemp project in 2012. And again, we went from, let's say, hemp to a single destination, which was the textile destination, to the hemp as a multi-purpose crop. And this was requested by a specific call for proposal by the European Commission, who asked for multi-purpose crops for industrial bioproduct and biomass. And it seemed to me that hemp was quite well suited for this call. And in fact, the project got granted. It was a large project in which we actually made a lot of research in different directions, and we also, let's say, supported the idea that in the end, hemp can be considered as a kind of a model crop for the bio-based economy. And first of all, this is due to the fact that you can exploit and valorize the wool plant in a complete value chain. It's a crop that also produces food, and I think this is a key issue. I think that before we heard about the different calls, and I think one which is for sure interesting for who is interested in hemp, which is at the center of today's workshop, is the R05, the one on sustainable fiber, biorefineries, feedstocks, in which there is a specific focus on the fact that the crop should be grown on marginal land. And this is a recurring aspect which happens, I think, throughout the whole CBE and also Horizon Europe. So biomass crops should be grown in marginal land, or anyway where there is no conflict with food production. And I think that hemp could, in a certain way, turn around this problem for it being considered also a food crop, because the seeds are valuable food sources. Then is low input, high resource use efficiency. We made many work to support these statements. It has also additional environment benefit. Indeed, it can be grown on marginal and polluted land. It has a kind of high biomass production. The fact it's low input and high resource use efficiency makes it also lower the need for inputs, and then this is also an environmental benefit. But I think mostly it can produce innovative, recyclable, sustainable material that actually have a market. And in fact, we produce in the frame of multi-hemp and also Fibra. Fibra is another, it was a concerted action that ran more or less parallel to multi-hemp, and I was also involved then. We produced this poster in which, based on the data from 2010, there is actually some information about the actual destination of all the different portions of hemp. And this also was a little bit like prior to the boom of the CBD market and so on. So here is indicated the flower, but it was not really an actual market. And now in the following years became much more popular. And another point is that not only hemp can be considered a biorefinery by itself because of the different products that it produces, but it's also a perfect feedstock for a biorefinery. And actually, if we look at the existing actual processing plant that work with hemp, we see that many different products are produced, as it should be in a biorefinery, and this is the scheme that we produce in multi-hemp, in which we actually split, let's say, in two the two lines with which hemp stems can be processed. On the left, the most common, the one in which the hemp stems are cut, and then they are left in a disordered swath on the field, and then they are decorticated to separate the sheaves from the fiber at the point are short fibers. And then on the other side, on the right side in the slides, we have the longitudinal hemp, which follows a little bit the tradition of the past, but also the actual tradition of linen for high quality fiber production, in which there is a scratching line in this sense. And as I reported here, hemp-cis, there is potentially the innovation of doing the biodegamming after scratching or doing retting before. But as you see, there is also seed collection and the recovery of CBD from the threshing residues, which is a possibility that we thought and pursued and studied in the multi-hemp project. So as you can see, is a proper biorefinery concept. What is, I think, is interesting to consider, it's a slide that I presented a few times, because it's date back to actually 2016, I think. It was during the AIA meeting at the time. We did a multi-stakeholder meeting, and I asked to the participants what are the main technical constraints of the hemp value chains, but also what is needed to increase hemp cultivation in Europe to over 100,000 hectares. And these are the points that came about, which I think is interesting point to take into consideration also for future research. First of all, enlarge the market of hemp products, because despite the fact that everybody knows that hemp has a lot of potential products, and also apparently a market for this product, but how large is this market? And the processors who were present at the meeting and who are the one actually transform the hemp stems into fiber and sheaves know that it's not so easy to find a market for all the products that they produce every year. Then there are some fiber quality issues. There is also the problem of retting, which is, of course, a random variable that every year makes fiber different, while most of the industrial applications require constant quality. Then also a grading system, which has never been implemented, and every company more or less has its own way to evaluate quality, but it would be important to have a more, let's say, homogeneous grading system, also to mix like different qualities for having a homogeneous quality. Then it stays the problem of mechanization of harvest. Well, long-term cultivation sustained by contracts, of course, because when you have to build a processing plant, you need to guarantee that in the future farmers will grow the crop, and then new varieties, especially new varieties that combine, because different products and good quality for both products, like dual purpose. So if you want to have fiber and seed, or multi-purpose, if you want, for example, to have fiber, seeds, but at the same time also relatively high CBD, which can be extracted from the threshing residues.
Sorry, can you go a little bit faster, because so that we
can
finish on time.
I'm going very fast now. So this is just a very few results, or like even publications. So we worked again throughout the multi-hemp, but also in Grace, in yellow varieties for this improved quality and higher decortication efficiency, which are easier to ret, which was proved, but they have a low seed yield, so this also should be addressed. Grace in particular was a project that was searching for crops to be grown in marginal environments. So Grace itself was focused, let's say, in large part on miscanthus, but also in part on hemp. So this is the part I addressed or I address in this presentation, and the marginal environment where cultivation in mountain area. Then we screen genotypes for osmotic stress tolerance and also for heavy metal tolerance. And we also made a review on the suitability of hemp cultivation on marginal environment. These are just a selection of the publication, which are open access, so they can be downloaded freely and read, by the way, and other publications are on the way. I think it's interesting to consider, I have three slides more. The fact that hemp is generally considered a crop that can be grown everywhere. So it can be grown in marginal conditions, in good condition, and so on. But actually, this is partially true, or at least we have to consider that a crop for being grown, also in marginal condition, it can provide, should provide a positive income to the farmers. So, for example, if it can grow in marginal condition, but the quality is not high enough to have higher value products, or the yield is not enough, that's of course a problem. And we have a lot of literature on the cultivation of hemp on heavy metal contaminated land, and that's a good possibility. But then, of course, remove the possibility for growing, or at least for using the seeds for food application. And also, for example, you can imagine that if you have like a high quality fiber for textile destination and the crop has been grown on heavy metal contaminated land, maybe that's not the best marketing strategy you could have. Then we saw some, in particular, we screened a lot of genotypes to find if there was a diversity, and the diversity is there, both for susceptibility to heavy metal and tolerance to drought. But some specific breeding program have to be started, therefore, to add, to this tolerance also some other quality aspects, for example, or productivity. Another very important issue is the mechanization. I think for the left-hand side, it's kind of solved because there are a lot of machines, even though these machines usually, especially the large one, are not very suited for marginal environment, especially in mountain areas, because they are very expensive, but they also need large fields. So this is also an issue that should be taken into consideration. And then I just report on the right here, these two different machines that have been recently developed in France, in Belgium, from last year. They're still prototype, but actually address the possibility to cut the hemp and lay in an ordered swath in order to go for the let's say right hand side the production line, which is for high quality fiber, which is maybe something very interesting for the coal R05 and sustainable fibers. So just some key points that I think can be the base for a discussion, or also something to take into consideration for future activities. I think that still the product development and commercialization depend on the availability of innovative products and also on a good marketing strategy that can help to enlarge actually the market for hemp products. Breeding is, I think, still a key issue. For the pure sensitivity, hemp flowers very early. And this is particularly a problem for southern environment, especially Italy or also Spain, south of France, where the food period usually during the cultivation is shorter because the varieties of hemp have been developed more for northern, especially northern France or center France. So they tend to flower very early. So there should be some breeding program for render hemp varieties less sensitive to photoperiod, or recover, for example, the genes that are still present in the varieties which are traditionally cultivated in Italy, that are of a much longer cycle, so higher production. Mechanization, in part, is still an issue for some aspects. I think that fiber extraction is the main issue. especially to get long fiber of good quality. We did a lot, I think, on agronomic technique, but it's always important to consider that the agronomic technique should be matched and modified according to the destination of the fiber, and also to the type of fiber extraction and harvesting we should carry out. And then a last point, which I think it's quite crucial, the business model. So should we go toward like what is also the actual state of hemp processing in Europe, which is more or less linked to processing facilities that are able to process 1,000, 2,000 hectares, or maybe, especially if you want to point to marginal areas, we should aim for a smaller scale. But in this case, we will need some innovation related to the fiber extraction, to the processing, which should be, of course, less expensive and manageable also for single farmer or small cooperative of farmers. And with this, I finished. And sorry if I was a little bit longer.
Thank you very much. No problem. I see a lot of technical questions on the Q&A section. So maybe I propose that you go through them and answer them in the chat while we go with the next speaker. And then at the end, if you think you need to answer live because a question is complicated, we have the Q&A section for that.
Okay.
Thank you very much. So our next speaker is Professor Vincent Placé, I think, and he is the coordinator of the SUKI project. So the floor is yours.
Thank you, Sarah, and good morning, everyone. Can you hear me correctly?
Yeah, perfectly.
Okay, so let me share my presentation now.
I can see the presentation.
Okay, good. So yes, good morning, everyone. It's my pleasure to be here today and to give a presentation on behalf of the Sushi Consortium. So I will present you the main activities performed within the Sushi project, as well as the main outcomes. Within this project, we tested new market application for hemp in composites, and I will give you some examples of the targeted application and demonstrators that were developed within the project. So Sushi ended early this year. It was a 54 months project from 2017 to 2022, and it stands for Sustainable Structural and Multifunctional Biocomposites from hybrid natural fibers and bio-based polymers, and a large part of the project was dedicated to hemp and hemp reinforcements. They are used in composite application. It grouped together 70 partners from 7 countries within Europe, 10 academics, and 3 industries, 3 SMEs, and one cluster. So here you can see the schematic representation of the objectives and organization of the project. So we had 3 main research axes, one dedicated to plant fiber processing and mainly dedicated to hemp processing based on some results collected in a previous project as presented previously by Professor Amaduchi. The second axis was dedicated to polymer processing to have a fully bio-based polymer suitable to hemp fibers to obtain at the end some composite materials. And the last research axis was dedicated to the implementation of advanced functionalities in this composites made of hemp and bio-based polymers. So the hemp value chain that was developed is represented here on this slide with the position of each partner within the value chain. So from biomass supply to composite product demonstrators. So one of the value chains that was developed or we contributed to develop within the project was focused on hemp. So I don't want to comment the main assets of hemp today. I think that all of you are fully aware of this point, and it was also underlined during the previous presentations. But in sushi, we try to take advantage of the availability, technical and environmental friendly characteristics of these fibers, and it moderate cost also to market high performance plant fiber reinforcement for composite applications. So the activities concerned hemp field trials, primary processing and secondary processing. So some activities were led at the lab scale with some academics, with Stefano Amaducci group, Pierre Wine group for the primary processing, and Damien Soula's group for the secondary processing. And the results that were obtained at the lab scale were further validated at the pilot scale or at the industrial scale directly. And all these activities were performed by l'Inificio Canapificio Nazionale. In the project, we tested two main routes for the transformation, for the processing, and the main objective was to obtain fully aligned unidirectional half products to be used further for weaving or for the production of preforms and preforms. So these half products were mainly low twisted rovings, which are suitable for composite applications, and we use the hemp machinery and the textile method already mentioned before by Stefano to do so. And a second route that we entitled medium length carded fibers for mid-range composite performance and moderate cost were also tested and successfully tested. And here you can see the type of low twisted rovings that we can obtain. So at the scale of hemp-field trials, so two varieties, Futura 75 and Fibro 79 were tested, and here you can see some numbers that were obtained in terms of yields and fiber content. So based on these results, we concluded that this type of varieties are competitive for the targeted applications in materials, in composite materials. Here I can share with you videos that you can find also on the Sushi website, in which we use the flax machinery for scotching and hackling the hemp stems and fibers. And here you can see the long fibers that were obtained after the scotching, and it was then hackled using the machinery to obtain at the end some slivers that were further used to produce these low twisted rovings that you can see on the picture on the bottom of the slide. These rovings were then used to produce woven fabrics and braids. So here you can see the weaving step and the type of woven fabrics that were produced. They were thought and designed for composite applications, so limiting the crimp within the fabric to facilitate the impregnation by the polymer in the further steps when producing the composite material itself. And some braids were also produced, as you can see on this slide, and some commingled yarns mixing together the hemp rovings and also some thermoplastic monofilaments to produce then commingled fabrics that can be used for the fast production composite parts. So we evaluated the mechanical performance of the hemp reinforcement for the composite application, because the mechanical properties are of primary importance for this type of application. So here you can see at the scale of the fibers, the results that we obtain for hemp when compared to the results classically obtained for flax fibers. So we can see that in terms of E modulus, rigidity and strength, we are quite comparable and competitive when compared to flax. And we did the same comparison at the scale of the composite using unidirectional or quasi-unidirectional hemp fabrics. With epoxy resin, and we compare to the results that we obtain with unidirectional flax tape, for example, and we can see that it's quite comparable in terms of E modulus, strength, and strain at failure. So I think it's a really positive results for the hemp community, because it makes hemp really competitive when compared to the front runner flax-based reinforcements. And then we used with the sushi partners the different reinforcements, hemp-based reinforcement developed to develop demonstrators. So there were 4 demonstrators: a green loudspeaker system, the chassis of an electric scooter, some bio-based panel for electric aircraft interiors, and also some sandwich panels for automotive interiors. So here you can see the type of green loudspeaker developed and now commercialized by our partner, Wilson Benesch company. So the new products are named Fibonacci series. So you can see the diversity of the system produced, and the very positive aspects that we characterize during the project is the damping capacity which is provided by the hemp-based composites with superior properties when compared to the classical glass or carbon fiber-based composite. So it's really a main asset of hemp for this type of application. Here you can see the scooter chassis that was developed using the woven hemp fabric. So it was second generation of a scooter already marketed by Vaneco company and produced by NPSP, and using this woven fabric when compared to the mat that was used for the first generation, we were able to obtain significant mass saving and superior mechanical properties. The third demonstrator is this type of aircraft interiors for an electric aircraft. It's the cockpit panel on which the instruments, the common instruments, will be positioned. So here the target was really high because the existing solution is made of carbon fibers. So in terms of mass and mechanical performance, it's a very challenging application, but we obtain very nice results with improved vibration damping, again, using the hemp reinforcements. And the last applications were for automotive interiors. So it's mainly based on sandwich panels with bio-based cores made of balsa or paper honeycomb or recycled material like PET foam. And the skins are made of hemp reinforcement. And we focused our efforts on a load floor structure for automotive applications. So the impact and outcomes of the activities made during the sushi project are the following. So new hemp reinforcement for composite applications, new bio-based composite structure and products, and the demonstration of their advanced functionalities at demonstrator level, the sustainable management and efficient use of natural resources such as hemp, but also wood and their byproducts for the production of the polymers. So the main objective was to decrease CO2 emissions, for the material production, but also during the use, in particular for the product demonstrators, which are related to transportation, ground or aerospace applications. And the last point was to increase the sustainability and competitiveness of the European bio-based composite sector through the development of this new material and the related technologies. So if you want to read or learn more regarding the sushi activities and results, and I invite you to download the book of final results, which is available on the sushi website, and do not hesitate to visit the website and all the resources available on the project website. So with this piece of information, I would like to end my presentation. So if you have any questions.
Thank you very much, Vincent. Mary, thanks for your presentation. It was very interesting. And I think you can help Stefano answering the technical question in our Q&A chat. And in the meantime, we can go on with our webinar. Unfortunately, our last speaker couldn't join us today, so I will go directly to our last session, which is about the networking opportunity offered by the MCLAB project. So let me share my screen again. Okay. No, it's not working. Okay, sorry. So the idea of this last session is to present our network, the activities that we are promoting in the context of the cluster exchange. And in particular, we would like to present the first exchange we are going to organize in September in Naples. During the Canapa Forum conference organized by Federcanapa. This exchange is organized, as I was telling you before, by Federcanapa, and the idea is to have a 5 days exchange with these objectives. First of all, we would during this exchange, you will have the possibility to share knowledge, but also individuate potential collaboration and commercial opportunities in the bioeconomy and hemp sector. You will have also the opportunity to enhance collaboration and networking among actors of the European bioeconomy value chain, and to visit local companies operating in the hemp sector, including farmers and raw materials processing industries. And finally, you will be able to learn about industrial hemp uses and regulation in the European and extra EU countries, in particular by participating in the conference of the Canapa Forum. The activities that we are promoting during this exchange are training activities, especially on marketing, B2B and matchmaking section among the participants of the exchange, but also the participant to the Canapa Forum conference. We will have also planned visits to university laboratories. We'll organize focus group and networking with other funder projects. And finally, there will be some times to participating freely to the Canapa Forum conference. The Canapa Forum Conference is an international conference on industrial and therapeutic hemp, which is organized by Federcanapa, the Italian Federation of Hemp, for the valorization of industrial production chains and for the promotion of all hemp-related sector. It is organized together with the European Industrial Hemp Association, which some representatives are here today, I see on the participant list. And the topics of the conference will be about fibers and shivers, and tops for industrial uses, especially cosmetic and food, and politics and regulation in the world. So not only European, but also other regulation. And finally, about therapeutic cannabis. we are also organizing another exchange in October. It will be organized by the Alliance for Fiber-Based Material in Germany, and it will be a 3 days exchange. It will include visits to local companies and university, participation to an international conference organized by our host, and finally, there will be a lot of networking opportunities. As I anticipated before, these exchanges are organized in the context of cluster exchange scheme. There are short, short exchanges between 2 different COSME countries, and they involve mainly small and medium enterprises and cluster as visitor organization. But the host organization, so the one that organized the exchange, could be also big companies, public authorities, and other organizations in the hemp sector. It is important to say that you will receive, if you would like to participate in our exchanges, you will receive a lump sum to cover for the cost of accommodation and the living costs during the exchange. These are our contacts. Our email is the main contact to ask for all information about especially about the exchanges, but also if you have all the curiosities about our events and what we do, you can contact us via email. Here there are the links to our social media, so that you can follow us and be updated on all the opportunities that we have. And finally, our project website, where you can find, you will find the slides that have been presented during this meeting. And also on the website, you will have all the information related to our events, our project materials, and our achievements. So we have a little bit time. We have some time left, and I can go through the question in the chat and the Q&A that are in. Let's see. There are some questions about the sushi project on the chat. Maybe Vincent can answer to that. And
so I'm sorry, Sarah, but I'm not sure to be able to see this question. So could you tell me?
The first one is, was by the sushi project provided the LCA study for the biocomposites made from hemp?
Yes, so we did the LCA analysis assessment within the sushi project for the different half products, so meaning for the hemp reinforcement, but also for the composite product demonstrators. So all the results of these assessments are published in the book of results, which is available on the sushi website. And we did the comparison systematically with the existing, the benchmark solution based on glass or carbon fibers. And in all the cases, we can see a strong decrease of the global warming potential when we use the hemp-based solution and the fully bio-based composite materials.
Thank you. And we have another one. Oh, sorry, I saw that maybe you answered already. Oh yeah, that was you. Okay, no problem. I was scrolling to the other one. Another question for you is, does Vincent know if hemp fiber is lighter than carbon fiber?
So hemp fibers have mechanical properties comparable to glass in terms of rigidity. In terms of strength, we are clearly lower. And when we make the comparison with carbon fibers, we are clearly lower in terms both of rigidity and strength. But when designing composite parts, We can also play with the design and, for example, make some sandwich structures in which we can keep mass saving when compared to the existing solution for similar strengths or rigidity when using the hemp fibers. So we can still have some competitive solutions, even if we compare to glass or carbon fiber-made existing solutions.
Thank you very much. I saw a question on the chat for the link to the presentation. Once we have uploaded them on the website, we will send you an email with the link so that you can access them more easily. I see many questions on our chat. Any possibility, if not too many people here, to have a quick networking session? Unfortunately, we are too many now, and we are. It's a webinar, but in the future we are planning to organize networking session. So just follow us and stay updated on our events, because we will have the possibility to also to have this kind of event. Are the cluster activities and member limited to European companies, cluster organization, or all the countries welcome as well? The countries that can participate are COSME countries, which means mainly European countries and European, yeah, there are almost European countries, but if you have some specific request, please send us an email, and I will verify if the participation of the organization is eligible.
Hi, can I ask a question?
Yes, sorry.
Yes, no, it's fine. I wanted to ask, I've read quite a few years ago, there has been some research into the graphene alternative from the hemp shiv. So I don't know if that was just something, some people were doing some random research, or has there been any further progress on that area?
I will leave this question to Stefano, because I'm not a technical person in this sector.
Okay, so is there, who is the person to direct these questions? Is it?
Yeah, there is still Professor Stefano Maducci here, and he can answer your question.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
to direct, thank you.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but I don't have information about anything commercial going on this regard, or anything that has followed up also from the research point of view.
Okay, so I should probably best go to this website that you've put up, the Hemp Club thing, yes? Okay, right. Thank you.
No problem. Okay, I think our webinar came to an end, and I thank you everyone for your participation. I think it was a very excellent possibility to networking and to know more the hemp opportunities for funding. If you have any question about our webinar, about our next events, about our exchanges, please contact us via email. We usually answer very soon, in 1 or 2 days. So contact us, and you will have all the answers you need. Also, if you are unsure if you can participate in the exchange for eligibility issues, contact us. We will give you all the information you need. Thank you again. Have a nice day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.